We now come to a statement on the Artificial Intelligence Summit in Seoul. Minister Saqib Bhatti.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. With permission, I shall make a statement about the AI Seoul Summit, which the government co-hosted with the Republic of Korea earlier this week. The AI Seoul Summit built on the legacy of the first AI Safety Summit hosted by the UK at Bletchley Park in November 2023. At Bletchley, 28 countries and the European Union, representing the majority of the world's population, signed the Bletchley Declaration. In the Bletchley Declaration, these countries agreed that for the good of all, AI should be designed, developed, deployed and used in a manner that is safe, human-centric, trustworthy and responsible. The same set of countries agreed to support the development of an international, independent and inclusive report to facilitate a shared science-based understanding of the risks associated with frontier AI. At the same time, the UK announced the launch of our AI Safety Institute, the world's first ever government-backed organisation dedicated to advance AI safety for the public good. And world leaders, together with the leaders of the foremost frontier AI companies, agreed to the principle that states have a role in testing the most advanced models. Since Bletchley, the UK has led by example with impressive progress on AI safety domestically and bilaterally. The AI Safety Institute has built up its capabilities for state-of-the-art safety testing. It has conducted its first ever pre-deployment testing for potential harmful capabilities on advanced AI systems, and it has set out its approach to evaluations and published its first full results. That success is testament to the world-class technical talent that the Institute has hired. Earlier this week, the Secretary of State announced the launch of an office in San Francisco, which will broaden the Institute's technical expertise and cement its position as a global authority on AI safety. The Secretary of State also announced a landmark agreement with the United States earlier this year, which will enable our institutes to work together seamlessly on AI safety. We have also announced high-level partnerships with France, Singapore and Canada. As AI continues to develop at an astonishing pace, we have redoubled our international efforts to make progress on AI safety. Earlier this week, just 6 months after the first AI Safety Summit, the Secretary of State was in the Republic of Korea for the AI Seoul Summit. There, the same countries came together again to build on the progress that we've made at Bletchley. Since the UK launched our AI Safety Institute 6 months ago, other countries have followed suit. The US, Canada, Japan, Singapore, the Republic of Korea and the EU have all established state-backed organisations dedicated to frontier AI safety. On Tuesday, world leaders agreed to bring these institutes into a global network, showcasing the Bletchley effect in action. Coming together, the network will build complementarity and interoperability between their technical work and approaches to AI safety to promote the safe, secure and trustworthy development of artificial intelligence. As part of the network, participants will share information about models, their limitations, capabilities and risk. Participants will also monitor and share information about specific AI harms and safety incidents where they occur. Collaboration with overseas counterparts via the network will be fundamental to making sure that innovation in AI can continue with safety, security and trust at its core. Tuesday's meeting also marked a historic moment as 16 leading companies signed the Frontier AI Safety Commitments, pledging to improve AI safety and to refrain from releasing new models if the risks are too high. The companies signing the commitments are based right across the world, including the US, the EU, China and the Middle East. And unless they've already done so, leading AI developers will now publish safety frameworks on how they will measure the risks of their frontier AI models before the AI Action Summit to be held in France in early 2025. The frameworks will outline when severe risks, unless adequately mitigated, would be deemed intolerable, and what companies will do to ensure thresholds are not surpassed. In the most extreme circumstances, the companies have also committed to not develop or deploy a model or system at all if mitigations cannot keep risks below the thresholds. To define these thresholds, companies will take input from trusted actors, including home governments, as appropriate before releasing them ahead of the AI Action Summit. On Wednesday, ministers from over 28 nations, the EU and the UN came together for further in-depth discussions about AI safety, culminating in the agreement of the Seoul Ministerial Statement. In the statement, countries agreed for the first time to develop shared risk thresholds for frontier AI development and deployment. Countries agreed to set thresholds for when model capabilities could pose severe risks without appropriate mitigations. This could include helping malicious actors to acquire or use chemical or biological weapons and AI's potential ability to evade human oversight. This move marks an important first step as part of a wider push to develop global standards to address specific AI risks. As with the company commitments, countries agreed to develop proposals alongside AI companies, civil society and academia for discussion ahead of the AI Action Summit. In the statement, countries also pledged to boost international cooperation on the science of AI safety by supporting future reports on AI risk. This follows the publication of the interim International Scientific Report on the Safety of Advanced AI last week. Launched at Bletchley, the report unites a diverse global team of AI experts, including an expert advisory panel from 30 leading AI nations from across the world, as well as representatives from the United Nations and the European Union, to bring together the best existing scientific research on AI capabilities and risks. The report aims to give policymakers across the globe a single source of information to inform their approaches to AI safety. The report is fully independent under its chair, Turing Award winner Yoshua Bengio, but Britain has played a critical role by providing the secretariat for the report based in our AI Safety Institute. Mr Deputy Speaker, to pull together a report like this in just 6 months is an extraordinary achievement for the international community. And just as an example, IPCC reports are released every 5 to 7 years. And I'll give a brief overview of its findings. It recognises that advanced AI can be used to boost well-being, prosperity and new scientific breakthroughs. But it does note that, like all powerful technologies, current and future developments could cause harm. For example, malicious actors can use AI to spark large-scale disinformation campaigns, fraud and scams. Future advances in advanced AI could also pose wider risks, including labour market disruption and economic power imbalances and inequalities. The report highlights that although various methods exist for assessing the risk posed by advanced AI models, all have limitations. And as is common with scientific syntheses, the report highlights a lack of universal agreement among AI experts on a range of topics, including the state of current AI capabilities and how these could evolve over time. The next iteration of the report will be published ahead of the AI Action Summit early next year. Concluding the AI Seoul Summit, countries discussed the importance of supporting AI innovation and inclusivity, which are right at the core of the summit's agenda. We recognise the transformative benefits of AI for the public sector, and we committed to supporting an environment which nurtures easy access to AI-related resources for SMEs, startups and academia. We also welcome the potential of AI to provide significant advances to resolve the world's greatest challenges, such as climate change, global health and food and energy security. The Secretary of State and I are grateful for the dedication and leadership shown by the Republic of Korea to develop a successful summit in Seoul, just 6 short months after the world came together in Bletchley Park. This was an important step forward, but just as at Bletchley, we are only just getting started. The rapid pace of AI development leaves us no time to rest on our laurels. We must match the speed with our own efforts if we are to grip the risks of this technology and seize the limitless benefits it can bring to people in Britain and around the world. The UK stands ready to work with France and ensure that the AI Action Summit continues the legacy that we began in Bletchley Park and continued in Seoul. Because this is not an opportunity that we can afford to miss. The potential upsides of AI are simply immense. But we cannot forget that this is the most complex technology humanity has ever produced. And as the Secretary of State said in Seoul, it is our responsibility to ensure that human wisdom keeps pace with human knowledge. I commend the Secretary of State and the Prime Minister for all the work they've done on this, and I commend this statement to the House.
Sir Chris Bryant.
Thank you very much, Sir Roger. I'm grateful to the Minister for advanced sight of his statement, and because I note the member for Bury St Edmunds sitting there, I hope it's in order for me, first of all, I note that she's not standing again in the general election. I know she's been very cross with me on occasions over the last few years. She's probably still cross with me now, but as she is only human, indeed, as the Minister says. On a very personal note, because we've both been cancer sufferers or survivors, and in fact we both have more than one rodeo in this, it's a sad day to see her leaving, and I'm sure she will continue to fight for patients with cancer and on many other issues, and I pay tribute to her. It's been a delight to work with her over these years, and I hope she'll forgive me one day. Sir Roger, the economic opportunities for our country through artificial intelligence are, of course, outstanding. With the right sense of mission and the right government, we can make the most of this emerging technology to unlock transformative changes in our economy, our NHS and our public services. Just think of AI in medicine. It's a personal hope that it may be possible soon to have an AI app that can accurately assess whether a mole on somebody's back or their arm or their leg or the back of their head is a potential skin cancer like melanoma. That might definitely save lives. I would also say you could say exactly the same about diagnosis of brain injury or many other different kinds of cancer and many other parts of medicine. So there could be no more important issue to tackle. But the government, I fear, have fluffed it again, and much as I like the Minister, I fear that statement could have been written by ChatGPT. So I've got a series of questions. Let me ask about the words he used, the shared risk thresholds for frontier AI development and deployment, which the Minister says governments will be developing. How will these be drawn up? What legal force will they have in the UK, in particular if there's to be no legislation, as seems still to be in the mind of the government? Secondly, the Secretary of State hails the voluntary agreements from the summit as a success, but that means companies developing the most advanced AI are still marking their own homework, despite the potential risks, doesn't it? Thirdly, the Minister referred several times to malicious actors. What malicious actors is he referring to? Do these include state actors? And if so, how is this work integrated with the cyber security strategy for the UK? And in particular, how is that going to be integrated with the cyber security strategy in the general election? Fourthly, the government's own artificial intelligence advisor, Professor Joshua Bengio, who is referred to by the Minister, has said it is obvious more regulatory measures will be needed, i.e. regulations or legislation of some kind. So why has the government not even taken the steps that the United States has done using President Biden's executive order? Next, have the commitments made 6 months ago at the UK Safety Summit been kept? Or are these voluntary agreements just empty words? Also, have the frontier AI companies who took part at the Bletchley Summit shared their models with the AI Safety Institute before deploying them, as the Prime Minister pledged they would? Next, the government press release stated that China participated in person at the AI Seoul Summit. So can the Minister just clear up if China signed the ministerial statement? Next, I raise this particularly as the Shadow Minister for Creative Industries, but why was there no representative of the creative industries at the AI Summit? Why none at all, despite the fact that this is a £127 billion industry in the UK, and many people in the creative industries are very concerned about the possibilities and the threats and dangers and risks associated with AI for remuneration of creators. The Code of Practice Working Group, which the government set up, which was aiming at an entirely voluntary code of conduct, has collapsed. So what's the plan now? The government originally said that it would still consider legislation. Is that still in their mind? The Minister says, I love this phrase in his statement, somebody clearly didn't do any editing. He says, we are only just getting started. Well, what on earth has taken them so long? A Labour government would introduce binding regulation of the most powerful frontier AI companies, requiring them to report before they train models for over a capability threshold, to conduct safety testing and evaluation, and to maintain strong information security protections. Why has the government not brought forward any of these measures, despite very strong advice from all of their advisers that they should do so? My final question, does the Minister agree with me that artificial intelligence is there for humanity, not humanity for artificial intelligence.
Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I'm going to just share the sentiment for my friend for Bury St Edmunds. It was a very sweet thing he said, the only sweet thing he said actually at the bell box. My honourable friend has been a great friend to me, especially as I became a new father, and she gave me advice. You know, a lot of people don't see the hard work that goes into the pastoral care that happens. So I'm personally very grateful to her, and I know she was just about to leave the chamber, so I will let her do that. But I just wanted to place on record my thanks and gratitude. Mr Deputy Speaker, I have to say I'm a bit disappointed in the honourable member. And I have a lot of time for him as well. But let me first address the point about healthcare, because I think it's very important. We obviously focus huge amount on AI safety. We've taken a world-leading position on AI safety, and that's what the Bletchley Declaration was all about. That's what the Seoul Declaration has all been about. But ultimately, his final statement about AI being for humanity is absolutely right. And we have been and we will be working at pace to help build trust in AI, because AI can be a transformative tool in a number of different spheres, whether it's the public sector or in health, as he quite rightly pointed out. And obviously, I hope, on a very personal way, I hope that he has the very best of health for a long time to come, being a cancer survivor himself. And I'm very confident that AI, the Prime Minister announced just earlier this week about how AI can help in the way breast cancer scans can be looked at. We know, I often talk about Brainomics, which has been greatly helpful across 37 NHS trusts to help with stroke units in terms of identifying stroke earlier on. That means 3 times more people are living independently than previously could have. And that really does mean that it can be used in other critical pathways. And so clearly in this field of radiotherapy, that has been, AI is going to be hugely important, and NICE has already recommended that AI technologies can be used in the NHS to help with contouring of CT and MRI scans to plan radiotherapy treatment for people and external beam therapy as well. The NHS AI Lab was set up in 2020 to accelerate the development and deployment of safe, ethical and effective AI in healthcare. But the honourable member, and I think it's worth saying this as well, shouldn't underestimate the complexity of this. I visited earlier this year a startup called Aval, which government helped fund through Innovate UK, and the success of the AI models varies upon the different machines that are used, how they're calibrated, and so it's very important actually that you have independent verification of AI models and how they are employed in the health sector specifically. In terms of malicious actors, he'll understand that I can't go into specific details for obvious reasons, but I can assure him that as I sit on the Defending Democracy Task Force, which is led by the Security Minister, we have been looking at pace at how to protect our elections, and I'm confident that we are prepared, and that is a cross-governmental approach, including with our agencies as well. It is hugely important that we ensure that people can have trust in our democratic process. He's right, of course, that these are voluntary agreements. I am surprised by the honourable member's response there, because we have said very clearly in our response to the white paper that we will keep the regulator-led approach, which we've invested money in. We've given £10 million to make sure they increase their capability in a whole sphere of areas. But we've also said we will not be afraid to legislate. We will not be afraid to do that when the time is right. And I think this is a key point, because there's a key difference between what we're talking about and what we're doing. Our plan is working, whereas the opposition keep talking about legislating, but they cannot tell us what they would legislate for. There is no robust detail, and I can see that's exercised the honourable member. He's chuntering for a sedentary position, but they just have no serious plan around this. And actually, the results speak for themselves, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Just around 2 weeks ago, we've had a number of significant investments, significant amounts of job creation in the UK, where it was CoreWeave and almost £2 billion. I mean, the front bench would do well to listen to this, because actually there were £2 billion invested in this. Scale.ai have just put their headquarters in the UK, and that really does show our world-leading position on this. And actually, that is exactly why we've co-hosted the Seoul Summit. That is exactly why we will support the French when they have their AI Action Summit. And that just goes to show a huge difference in our approach, because we see safety as an enabler of growth, an enabler of innovation, and that's exactly what we're doing. And you mentioned creative industries. Well, look, the work goes on with the creative industries. It's hugely important, and we will not shy away from the most difficult challenges that AI presents.
Order. Just before we proceed, this concludes my last session in this seat for this Parliament, and I'd like to thank the House for the courtesy and the understanding that I've received during my time as a Deputy Speaker. It's been hugely appreciated. Thank you all. Yeah. Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I thought the Shadow Minister was wise to draw attention to the potential benefits of AI, in particular for health research and treatment, notably brain injury, a subject about which he and I share a passionate interest. But foolish, if I might say so, to be churlish about the steps the government have already made. The government deserves great credit for taking a lead on this internationally and for establishing the first organisation dedicated to AI safety in the world. So I thank and congratulate the Minister for that. But I just say this. In balancing the advantages and risks, the costs and benefits, will he be very clear that the real risk here is underestimating the effect AI may have? The internet has already done immense damage despite the heady optimism at the time it was launched. It has brutalised discourse. It has blurred the distinction between truth and fiction. And AI could go further to alter our very grasp of reality. I don't want to be apocalyptic, Madam Deputy Speaker, but that is the territory we're in, and it requires the most considered treatment if we're not going to make those risks a nightmare.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for that. I completely agree with him. Look, we recognise the risks that AI and the opportunities that AI presents, and that's why we've tried to balance safety and innovation. He's right, of course, and I refer him to the Online Safety Act, where it is a technology-agnostic piece of legislation, and where AI is also covered in a whole range of spheres where the Act looks at illegal harms, so to speak. But he's absolutely right, and to say that actually this is about helping humanity move forward. It is absolutely right that we should be conscious of the risks, but I'm also keen to support our startups, our innovative companies, our really exciting tech economy to do the things that they do best, which is to move society forward. But that's exactly why we've taken this pro-safety, pro-innovation. I'd just like to repeat, safety in this field is an enabler of growth.
SNP spokesperson Kirsty Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I would like to thank Sir Roger, who has just left the chair. He has been excellent in the chair, and I've very much enjoyed his company as well as his chairing. Can I thank the government for advance sight of the statement, and can I raise the issue that my constituents and people across these islands are concerned about the use of AI, they're concerned about the increasing use of AI, and they're concerned about it not least because of the lack of regulation that is in place around this. I've got some specific questions around it in relation to the declarations, in relation to what's potentially coming down the line with regulation. In terms of the data that there is, who will own the data that there is, the data that is gathered, who has responsibility for ensuring the safety of that, and what is the Minister doing to ensure that regard is given to copyright and that intellectual property is therefore protected for those people that have spent time and energy and their massive talents in creating both information and research, but also artwork. What are the impacts on climate change of the use of AI? It has been made clear that using this technology actually has an impact on the climate because of the intensive amounts of electricity, for example, that it uses. Is the government considering that? Will the Minister ensure that in any regulations that come forward that there is a specific mention of AI harms for women and girls, particularly when it comes to deepfakes, and that they are explicitly mentioned in this, and also that those other groups that are protected by the Equalities Act are also mentioned explicitly in any regulations or laws that come forward around this? Just lastly on this, Madam Deputy Speaker, we waited 30 years for an Online Safety Act. It took a very, very long time for us to get to the point of there being regulation for online safety. Can the Minister make a commitment today that we will not have to wait this long for regulations rather than declarations in relation to AI?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Well, look, I think she makes some very interesting points. And I think the thing about AI, it's not just about the large language models. It's the speed and the power of the compute systems and the processing power behind them. So when she talks about climate change or some of the other more significant issues or as significant issues that we face as humanity, that power to compute is going to be hugely important, and to be able to see how we can predict the how climate change evolves, weather systems, and I'm very confident that AI is going to play a huge part in that. And I think the other part of this is actually AI does not recognise borders, and that's why the international collaboration and the reason why these summits are so important is hugely important. We had in Bletchley, we had 28 countries plus the EU signed the declaration. It is, we've had really good attendance at the Seoul summit as well, and it's been a glow, and some really world-leading declarations made. They're going to be absolutely important. I refer her to my earlier comments around copyright. I recognise the issue, and it's hugely important because it's core to building trust in that, and we will look at that. She'll understand why I won't be making a commitment at the dispatch box today for a number of reasons, but I'm very confident that we will get there, and that's why our approach to the white paper response has been received very well by the tech industry and by AI. And I think the final point I'd make, which is what she started with about her constituents, across the United Kingdom, are worried about AI. That's why we all have to show leadership on this and to reassure people that we are making advances on AI and doing it in a safe way. That's why our Safety Institute was so important. And the network of safety institutes, which we've helped advise on, we've worked with international countries, is going to be so, so important, because in different countries there will be different nuances when it comes to large language models. There will be different things that they'll be approaching, and just sheer capability will be a huge factor.
Matt Hancock.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I pay tribute to the approach that the government has taken on AI? The growth of AI and its exponential impact has really not landed, I think, with most people around the world yet. The scale and the impact of this technology is truly once in a generation, if not once in history, and making sure that around the world we work to harness this incredibly powerful force for good for humanity is vital. It's very good to see the UK playing a leading role in that, and frankly it is very good to see a cross-party approach, because this is bigger than party politics. Can the Minister make sure that all those involved, Lord Camrose himself, the Secretary of State, the Prime Minister, make sure that this agenda of both empowering the development of AI but also putting in place the guardrails is absolutely at the centre, not just of UK policy, but of policy across the world?
Minister.
I thank my right honourable friend, and can I put on my record my personal thanks to him for all he's done. We worked very closely together in the introduction of the Integrated Care Board when he was Health Secretary, and that was hugely beneficial to my constituents, and it continues to be. He raised some really important points around the opportunities of AI and the building of trust, which I've also spoken about. Although he said cross-party, I'm not quite sure the opposition are quite there yet in terms of our approach. And I would just say to the opposition, actually, that there is a great tech story in this country. We are now the third most valuable economy in the world. We're worth over $1 trillion. We have more unicorns than France and Germany and Sweden combined. We've created more jobs than pre-pandemic levels, Madam Deputy Speaker, before 2019, over 22%, 1.9 million more jobs. And as I said, we've had about just over £2 billion coming in investment just in the last fortnight. We believe in British entrepreneurs. We believe in British innovation. We believe in British startups. The real question I've got is, why does the opposition not believe in Britain?
Jim Shannon.
Deputy Speaker, can I welcome very much the Minister's statement. I think he's right to say that there are many across the Chamber support the goals and the objectives that the Government quite clearly have. The continued drive focused around the Bletchley Declaration last year is to be welcomed. So I further welcome the drive to prevent or present disinformation and other concerns. However, will the Minister confirm that whilst information share and practice share will be almost universal, we must retain the ability to ensure that censorship of positions that may not always be popular but should not be censored will not take place, and further that cybersecurity in particular will be a priority for us nationally and primarily followed by our international obligations? Thank you.
Well, I thank the honourable friend for his comments there. He's absolutely right. AI is going to play a huge role in cybersecurity. We've recently launched our codes of practice for developers in the cybersecurity field. AI is going to play, it's going to be the defining technology of the 21st century. It's hugely important, and some of the questions he raises are exactly why we've taken the approach that we have. We want our regulators, who are closest to their industries, to define and be on top of what is going on, and that's why we've given them capacity building funds. We've asked them to set out their plans, which they did at the end of April, and we continue to work with them.
Steve Bryant.
It sounds as if there was a fair bit of discussion at the summit on AI in healthcare, in particular its use as a medical device. The Minister will know it's got great potential, and I heard his exchanges just a moment ago, particularly mammography reads, for instance, just to give one example, where it can support, not replace, clinicians. But does the Minister agree that we must, following a strong lead from the US in this area, ensure that the regulatory landscape is in the right place to assist, not get in the way of this innovation?
Minister.
Well, my honourable friend for Winchester makes a hugely important point, and I would just refer him to what I said earlier, which is what was insightful for me was how transformative AI can be in health. But what was the insight I gained when I went to visit AVAL, for example, was how the complexity of installing AI as a testing bed for different machines, depending on who's manufactured them, who's calibrated them, and I think the regulator is going to play a hugely important role. And as you can imagine, it's going to, whether it's heart disease or radiotherapy, or whether it's the work that DeepMind have done in terms of developing AlphaFold, the regulator is going to play a really important role. I think it makes it really important.
Mark Logan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I congratulate the Minister for all his enthusiastic work on AI. I just note in the speech that he'd referred to frontier AI safety commitments, and 16 companies were mentioned, one of which was Zhipu AI of Tsinghua University in China. And it is, of course, one of the 4 new AI tigers of China. And I was wondering, how important is the work that the Minister is doing to ensure that China is kept in the tent when it comes to safety and regulation of AI, and that we don't end up with balkanisation when it comes to AI?
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My friend from Bolton North East makes a really important point. I'm not going to try and pronounce at the universities, at all the companies. But I think two things I'd say. AI does not recognise borders. So I think it was really important for China to be in the room, having those conversations. And when those 16 companies signed up to a world first, by the way, we had companies from the US, the United Arab Emirates, China, and of course the UK sign this. This is the first time that they've agreed in writing to say they will not deploy or develop models that test the thresholds. Those thresholds will be defined at the AI Action Summit in France. And this is exactly right. We need a global collaborative approach.
I thank the Minister for his statement.